and welcome to this FinanceBoards demo. This demo is a good way for any level of investor to get an idea of how to save time and money with FinanceBoards and get started with the platform. This video will be broken down into two parts, each part covering one of the platform's two main features, which are the Predictive Analytics Models and the web-based dashboards. Our analytics models daily find what metrics, such as fundamentals, technicals, analyst estimates, sentiment, etc., are moving the markets and output a ranking designed to outperform the S&P 500. Our web-based dashboards can be configured by selecting any of our 500 plus financial data widgets, which let you review in one place only the financial data you're interested in. A more specific breakdown of this video can be found in the description. Let's take a look at the problems these two things are trying to solve. For the predictive analytics, even though the mutual fund managers and advisors have the best education and access to the best resources, the majority of them underperform the markets. There's got to be a reason for this, and we'll show you what the reason is and how our predictive analytics models solve it in this video. Another problem: to invest by yourself, you have to learn a lot to even get started. You have to learn finances, how to analyze financial statements, how to analyze trends in the markets, and so much more. Our model solves this by essentially doing the research process for you and finding what metrics are actually moving the markets. For the web-based dashboards, lots of platforms have good information but on a specific niche of investing, and going from platform to platform takes time. We have over 500 widgets of financial data, which you can add to your dashboards, letting you have all the relevant information to you on one screen, and thus tailoring the experience to you. Before we go in depth on these 2 points, let's bring these 2 points of FinanceBoards together and go over a very simple way you can use FinanceBoards to pick stocks to invest in. So, looking at the dashboards menu here, we're going to click on the Buying Rankings dashboard. On this page, we're going to look at the first widget, the Model Top Ranks widget. When we find a stock in this ranking we like, perhaps we like its industry or something, we can click on it and click Quick Info. At this point, we see the stock info card widget pop up with lots of different information about the selected stock. For example, we can take a look at the analyst price targets and their ratings and see if we like them. Once we're happy with the price targets a stock has, we can pick it. The methodology and the returns of this ranking will be gone over later in this video, but for now, we just wanted to show you how simple it can be to use FinanceBoards, because it's true, it can seem very imposing to someone who has no idea how it works. So let's go back to just a general dashboard here and get started on the dashboards section. So each user can fully customize their dashboards with stock-related widgets. Currently, FinanceBoards has around 500, but users can create their own widgets too. Widgets can integrate any API data, including company financials, technical charts and indicators, to social data such as website SEO metrics and Facebook likes. So, what we see here is just the general FinanceBoards dashboard. We can see that there are a bunch of different widgets from different categories. So here we have a technical chart widget, here we have a valuation ratios widget, and here is the stock info card we looked at earlier. The stock info card is a great way to just get a general idea of a company and shows things such as the P ratio, PEG ratio, the targets as we mentioned, the news and blog sentiment, so it goes from negative to positive 100, and we can see that for Apple, as right now, it's trending positive. We can see the insider score, transactions, insider signal, hedge funds, their outlook, the percent held by institutions and mutual funds, and the beta, alpha, and Sharpe ratios. Another cool widget, if we scroll down here, is the Peter Lynch strategy widget. Peter Lynch was a famous stock guru who had certain rules he liked to invest by. So here, we show the percentage of rules passed for a specific stock, so the stock's value in those metrics, and their required value to pass. As with any of our stock-specific widgets, we can type in another ticker up here, so let's say Tesla, and this information would update for Tesla. So let's go over how we can customize these widgets. This is a technical chart here. We might want to make it a little bit bigger. We go here to the bottom right of the widget and drag to make it bigger. We can also move widgets around. So if we want to move this widget down here, we can drag it and drop it. We can change the colors of widgets, and to do that we go up here and click change background color. Let's change it to this. As I had mentioned earlier, you can also create these widgets from scratch if you have access to an API data. We're not going to go over it right now, but at this point I'll mention that if you were interested in doing that, you can click on the tutorials button here, and you'd get taken to a bunch of tutorials, a few of them, such as these four, mentioning how to create widgets. So let's talk more about widgets. If you wanted to, let's say, create a widget from scratch, you'd go up here and click the widgets button and click here to create new widget. We're not going to be going over that, but while we're here, as you see, we're on the widgets page, and this is a very good page to familiarize yourself with all the widgets. So you can just scroll down and see them all, and you can search by categories for widgets. So let's say fundamentals, we'll search for fundamentals widgets, and this way, this is a good way to find what widgets are widgets that you might want to add to your dashboard. So here we see a balance sheet annual widget. It looks like something we'd want to add to our dashboard. So to do that, we'd go back to our dashboard, and we'd click on this widgets button over here, and then we can search for a widget either by its category, like we looked at before, or by its name. So let's say we're looking for the balance sheet widget. We can type balance sheet. So here it is. We can click on its little icon here and get a full working version of it, so we can see how it would look. Let's say we like it. We can click the check mark here and click add selected. As you can see, a little notification has popped up here, and this will let us save the dashboard. But here's the widget, and since we missed the notification, we can go down here and click save dashboard. So now we can refresh this page, or come back from any other computer and just log in, and our dashboard will be how we left it. So let's talk a little bit more about just in general dashboards. FinanceBoards has pre-made around 45 dashboards, which you can clone, edit, use yourself. We'll take a look at some of the interesting ones now. So here we have an analyst dashboard, which shows a bunch of different analyst related widgets. So an interesting one here is the earnings history widget, which shows the estimated and the actual earnings per share and the difference between the two for multiple dates. So this is a good way to get an idea of whether a company tends to over or underperform its its estimated EPS. As we can see that for Apple, it does tend to overperform, which it is notorious for. We go here, we can click on the Guru's dashboard, and as we had seen the Peter Lynch strategy widget before, we also have widgets for the Warren Buffett, Kenneth Fisher, and Benjamin Graham strategies, as well as a widget that combines them all and shows you the percentage of rules passed for them. You might be wondering, well, if there are 45 dashboards, why are there not 45 dashboards in this menu? Well, the reason for that is we don't want users to have to worry about navigating through dashboards that they're not interested in. So you can essentially configure what dashboards appear here. And the way you do that is by clicking on the configure menu. So you'll see 3 columns. On the left, your menu, which is essentially the dashboard menu we were looking at. In the middle, are your dashboards, which are dashboards the user has created that are not on the menu. And on the right are public dashboards, so dashboards that FinanceBoards has created that are also not on the menu. Let's say we want to add a dashboard to our menu. We'll pick one. Let's say markets information, and drag it over and drop it in the position we want it to appear. Let's say we want it to appear first. And we can click Save Configuration, and here it is. Next, let's go over how you can create a dashboard. The way you do that is you go here to Investing, and then you click Dashboards. Here you can see a list of all the dashboards. So this is again a good way to familiarize yourself with all the dashboards. But if you want to create a new dashboard, you go to the bottom right and click Create New Dashboard. But what we're going to do now, since the process is essentially the exact same and it'll take less time, is clone an existing dashboard. So let's say we're going to clone this dashboard here. We go to the pencil icon and click Clone Dashboard. Here we can do stuff such as give it a name. So let's call it Demo Dashboard. We'll give it a type. We can give it a category, a membership level. So if you decide to publish this dashboard, what membership level will people need to be to see it? Of course, you don't have to publish your own dashboards if you don't want to. We can give it a description, and below here is where we see the dashboard itself. So we can customize it before saving it. Let's say we're going to delete a few widgets, and let's add the balance sheet widget to the dashboard. So here it is, and let's move it up a bit. Okay, so we're going to drop it here. And last thing we do is we can take a screenshot. So let's take a screenshot of the dashboard area here, and it'll be a thumbnail for when we're searching for it. There it is. So now you can save it. And once we do that, let's add it to our menu. So we're going to click Configure as before. We're going to find it. So Demo Dashboard, it's under Your Dashboards. And we're going to drag it and drop it. So let's drop it at the way top and get rid of this dashboard while we're at it. So we just click the little X here to remove the dashboard. So we're going to save the configuration, and here it is as we created it. So you might be wondering, okay, so all these widgets are displaying information for Apple, but what if I want to see all these widgets for, let's say, Facebook? Do I have to go one at a time and type in Facebook on each of these widgets? And the answer is no. And this is where stock-specific dashboards come in. And the way you access them is by putting a ticker up here. So let's say we're going to search for Facebook. We put Facebook up here and click Enter. And here we see dashboards with widgets that display information for Facebook. And we have a menu here as well. But as you can see, the dashboard we created just now is not in this menu. But we can configure it and add our dashboard to it. There we go. So we're going to save the configuration. We go back, and here it is. All the widgets displaying info for Facebook. Now let's type in a different ticker up top, and we'll see all the widgets change for that specific ticker. So that more or less goes over the dashboards part of FinanceBoards. Before we go into the predictive analytics, I'll just show you a few things. So as you can see, for our widgets, we have lots and lots of different data. If we go to the bottom here and click on the About page, we can see our integrated partners. Just show you them quickly. And one last thing, if we go on Support and click Blog, we'll see a blog, which is updated around every day with news, stock news. And if there's a company mentioned in an article, you can click on it, and you'll get taken to your stock-specific dashboards for that stock. so it's a good way to research the stock. Okay, let's go onto the predictive analytics. We're going to click on investing first and click on predictive models. So I'll give a little bit of background before. Financial data is becoming cheaper and greater in scope. So we wanted some way to bring it all together in one place to see which data is performing well and worth considering, and which data isn't so hot at the moment. One way to do this would be through predictive analytics, and it's a branch of analytics which makes predictions about unknown future events. The end result is the very simple ranking, the ranking we saw at the beginning, for the user, and it only considers the data points that are effective right now. So let's take a more in-depth look at the data points we consider. So we see categories like company fundamentals, we see technical analysis, we see analyst estimates, sentiment, so news blogs, website SEO. We gather data from the options markets, some general stock information, fair value estimates, and guru strategies. The way the predictive analytics model handles all these screeners is by having one constraint, or target. Find which screeners can pick stocks that outperform the S&P 500. And once the model has determined that a screener can pick stocks that outperform the S&P, that screener gets a weighting from 0 to 100, as we can see in the parentheses here, or by how big the node is. And then these weighted screeners are used to come up with the ranking over 4,000 stocks. These weights are updated every day based on their daily performance, and thus the ranking changes every day. So as we see, each screener here has its own weight, and similar screeners are grouped into, let's call it a category. And these categories have, again, their own ranking, and then therefore their own weight based on their performance. And then similar categories, let's say, are grouped into a subcategory. And again, these subcategories have their own ranking, therefore their own weight, and are essentially what drives the ranking. We can see that right now the fair value subcategory has the highest weight. It has a maximum weight of 100, but that's definitely not always the case. And in a minute now, we'll go over the historical performance of each of these subcategories, and it'll tell us why these fund managers haven't been able to outperform the markets. But before doing that, I'll answer one question you might have, and that is, well, why are some of these screeners black? Why are some of them gray? Why are some of them red? So if we go to the top left here, it'll explain this. So if a screener is gray, such as the mutual fund holdings, it means that it's not performing well in the current markets and therefore has a weighting of 0. It doesn't mean it's a bad screener for always. It just means that as of today, it's having no effect and therefore is not considered in the ranking. If a screener is black, so let's say the price to earnings ratio, that means it's working well, just in general. But if a screener is red, that means it works well, but only when you consider stocks by their industry. So if you group them by their industry. And as you can see, they'll have no global weight, but they'll have an industry weight. As the user, you don't even need to know the difference between these things because all you're getting is the output, the ranking. All the research is done for you. But let's go on to see the performance history of these categories, and it'll tell us something very interesting. So we're going to scroll down, and once it loads, we see this little chart here. And on the y-axis, we see these big subcategories. And on the x-axis, we see the date starting with January 2015, the first day the model ran. And basically what a solid line tells us is that on that specific day, that category had a weight greater than 0, which is to say it was outperforming the markets. And what's interesting is that we see not a single category has consistently had a weight greater than 0 or outperformed the markets. This tells us that what's moving the markets is always changing. And this is not something that these funds and advisors are accounting for. What they're trying to do is have some static strategy, maybe like a magic formula or something. They're always seeking some magic formula to predict the markets. But as you can see, you can have a formula that works well over a period of a few months, maybe even sometimes years, but you cannot get consistent outperformance because what's moving the markets is always changing. And we've seen people like Peter Lynch, the guru, implement static strategies that work very well over years and even decades sometimes, but they don't perform today. And that's the case with Peter Lynch. His strategy outperformed over 25-30 years with his Fidelity Magellan mutual fund. But use the same strategy today, and you're not going to be outperforming the markets, at least to the huge extent he was outperforming it. If you invested $1 in his fund, 25 or 27 years later, it will turn into $29. That's a huge difference. But the thing is, what moves the markets changed, and that same strategy does not work anymore. And this is exactly what our model is trying to account for. It's impossible for a single individual to consider all these different screeners and see which ones are performing and which ones should be used in a strategy. But our model does all this work and outputs the easy to see ranking. Let's go back and look at the previous dashboard more in depth, the buying rankings dashboard, sorry. So we're gonna go here and click buying rankings. Now that we know how the ranking is generated, the rest of these widgets also make sense. This widget shows the 5 days best buying performance of the individual screeners. So we see, okay, which screeners were performing well for these last 5 days. And if we want, we can click on them and research further the rankings within these screeners. So here it is. So we just go on buying rankings and we'd see the rankings. But let's go back for now. The model screeners is another way of showing us the screener weights that we saw in the pinwheel earlier. Right below these is the best buying performance widget, and this shows the returns of the model over periods of a day, 5 days, and all history. And as we can see, overall history, the returns are a bit higher than the S&P 500. Not necessarily extraordinary, but still doing better than what over 80% of fund managers cannot. We can see that over more recent periods, the model has been performing even better in relation to the S&P. So this could be because the model maybe is getting smarter, or it could be just down to maybe a little bit of both, that and luck. If we step back for a minute and think about the screeners, so we go back and we think about the categories of each of the screeners, it would make sense that some of them would perform better over different time periods. So for example, news sentiment would have influence over a short period of time. That would make sense. Perhaps a few days or a week, while others, perhaps analyst estimates, would have a lasting influence over a month or even longer. As such, we don't only have this general ranking we were looking at earlier, we have also time-specific rankings over 3 different time periods: a week, a month, and a year. And each of these time periods have their own separate dashboards. Let's focus on just one of these time periods to explain how they work. So here we see the short-term buying, medium-term buying, and long-term buying dashboards. So let's just focus on one. Let's focus on the long-term buying dashboard and get an idea of how these work. So the ranking we see here is generated by looking at the 400 plus screeners, but only gives weights to screeners if they perform well over a 1 year holding period. So performance over any shorter or longer period of time doesn't matter at all. This might lead you to ask, Well, for what holding period is the first ranking we looked at good for? And the answer is that it averages the performance over the week, month, and year time periods. So, of course, your performance will probably not be as good as if you were to follow these specific holding period strategies. But it's great if you're not sure how long you plan on holding a stock. Going back to the widget itself, we'll see that it has two ranking columns. And the column on the left shows the 1 year ranking, and the column to the right shows the general ranking for this stock. Now we move over to the best buying performance widget again, and we'll see that the history for the entire screener performance has been much higher in relation to the S&P 500 than just the general one has. And it's not surprising because this ranking is time specific while the general one is not, or at least it averages the different time periods. At the beginning of this video, we went over a basic flow of picking a stock, but let's bring together the things we've gone over now and show a customizable way to pick stocks. So the first thing we can do is decide on a holding period. Let's say we're going to pick a short-term holding period. And again, short-term holding period is a week, medium-term is a month, and long-term is a year. And for each of these holding periods, the screeners will be weighted depending on how well they perform on that holding period. So we're here, and what we're going to do is look for a stock that's ranked highly for a holding period, but also ranked highly in general. That way, if we end up really liking a stock or forgetting to sell our shares, we should still be fine if we hold it over its time period, because that means that its metrics are good in general. So this stock here looks pretty good. Now we can click on it and hit the research button. And this will take us to our stock-specific dashboards. As a user, a really good idea would be to create a research dashboard that's full of widgets you think are good indicators of what a good stock is. For now, let's say we like these stocks' numbers and it passes our final filter. Once we find a stock we want to buy, we can place trades directly through the FinanceBoards platform. And to do that, we're going to go over here and click Brokers. We've integrated 9 of the biggest brokers, and I'll just scroll through them now so you can see. If you have an account with any of these brokers, connecting to them is super easy. So to link to a broker, you just click the Connect button and put in your username and password. I don't have an account with any of these brokerages, so I just have a dummy broker account here with fake money that I'll use as an example. So once you've connected to your brokerage, the card will change and it'll look more like this. And you'll be able to view your accounts, you'll be able to view your positions, your orders, and your transactions through the bottom right of the card. So let's go back to the stock we were gonna buy. And you can click the buy button here at the top, and you'll be taken to a trading dashboard, which has a few widgets. The widget on the left here is the broker new order widget, and it's essentially where you'll place the order. You'll pick your account if you have multiple. You can pick an action, a ticker, which currently has been pre-filled because we click buy on this stock, a quantity, a price type, and an expiration. So since I have a fake account, I can put it just a number that we're going to buy, and we're going to send the order, and we'll see a confirmation. It'll show the quantity, the order price, estimated total, buying power, etc., etc. So we click submit, and there it is. You'll get a confirmation notification up here. We'll see a few other widgets on this trading dashboard. This is the broker transactions widget, and it's pretty self-explanatory. Symbol, quantity, price, amount, commission. And here, an interesting widget is the positions price targets widget. So I'll expand this a little bit. But this widget shows you, for your positions, what the price targets are from Benzinga tip ranks, and Zacks. It's a really easy way to see all in one place what the price targets are for your positions. At this point, we've pretty much gone over all of FinanceBoards' features. So one of the final things we're going to do is go over the different subscription levels. To get to them, you're going to click on your name if you're logged in. You can click membership, and you can click subscribe to get a good overview of them. So the free tier, for which you can register without a credit card with, covers pretty much all the dashboards, widgets, and customizations, except for the ones that deal with the predictive analytics models, so such as the buying rankings dashboard and the widgets on it. The budding investor tier here, for $20 a month, is ideal for starting investors that don't necessarily know their investing time frame, but need to find good stocks, or someone who just wants a second opinion on his investing picks. The advanced investor tier, for $40 per month, is great for advanced investors who know their investing timeframes, so for how long they will keep stocks. And with those, you'll get the short-term, medium-term, and long-term rankings, and all the widgets that come with them. Finally, the professional investor tier adds the insights of the models and screeners' performance statistics, so you can know day by day how are the models performing in relation to the S&P 500. As you can see, we have yearly discounts compared to the monthly. So if we go back to the problems that were mentioned at the beginning of the video, we'll see that we answered all of them. So about the predictive analytics models, the first problem: most mutual funds and financial advisors underperform the markets. We saw the reason for this, which is that the strategies that they're using are static. They have static criteria, and that does not work in the long term. And the reason for that is, as we saw on the graph, the metrics that are moving the markets are constantly changing. So the best strategy in that case is one that is constantly adapting to what is moving the markets. And we saw our predictive analytics model and its returns and how they are outperforming the S&P 500. The second problem: tools and services that are too difficult to use. Essentially, our model, what it does is remove all of the research aspect from you and does it itself. It sees, okay, which of the hundreds of screeners are even worth considering right now. So you as a user, theoretically, don't even need to know what a price to earnings ratio is. The problems that the web-based dashboards solve. So, too much platform hopping. As you saw, the widgets on our platform come from lots of different categories: technicals, fundamentals, analysts. We didn't even mention all of them. Second problem: not possible to view all relevant data to you in one place. We viewed how to configure your own dashboard, how to add widgets to it, how to delete widgets from it, and essentially how to make your investing experience customizable to you, so you don't have to worry about any outside sources. So, thank you very much for watching.